Hi, everybody. I really want to welcome you here today. I am beyond excited to have my friend with me today, Lesley Delgado with Strategic Recruiting Services. Lesley is a dynamo. I just can't wait to hear this conversation, and her company is amazing. As you heard me say, there is the word recruiting in the name of her company, and there is nothing more important or on everyone's minds right now than recruiting. The number of people in the labor market, as we are all well aware, has dropped like crazy. I believe that there are over 8 million jobs available right now. Lesley is going to be able to share today with us some wonderful tips on how to recruit, how to hire, just some stuff that I think every single person, whether you're even a business owner, obviously business owners can use this, but if you're in any kind of leadership position, in an organization, you need to hear this stuff. So Lesley, first of all, welcome and thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, Dawn. What a kind introduction. I really appreciate that. It's a delight. It's a delight to be here. This is probably one of my favorite conversations. I think that recruiting, obviously, like you said, is top of mind for business today. It just is. Recruiting is always a challenge. It always has interesting elements depending on what's going on in our world, or in our in our workforces. But COVID's put an interesting twist on all of that, right? And we've had to really morph and change through all of this. But I've been a business owner here in Metro Detroit for 30 years now. Well, almost 30 years. Well, I'm just shy, coming up on it, and always have sat on this side of the desk, Dawn, where I've been kind of outside looking into organizations and then helping them to really not only hire, but find, attract, position themselves in the market, find the right talent that they need to help continue to grow their businesses. We sit on the same side of the desk as our customers, as owners of businesses, and helping them to define really who it is that they need and who that they're really looking for. So
I think that makes such a huge difference, Lesley, because you really understand, can get inside the mind of a business owner because you are one.
Correct.
Versus I feel like some other, maybe executive recruiting firms that they're just people that have only recruited. They don't know really what it's like to be a business owner and may not really be able to understand the trials and tribulations really of recruiting. Not only that, but a lot of organizations work with giant companies versus the small business owner that, we're really talking about today. And so a lot of owners, I think, are afraid to even talk to a recruiter.
I completely agree. And that this is my sweet spot. This is my gift, right? I really enjoy working in this space with small, mid-sized business owners who are, kind of scaling their company. Recruiting is its own beast. And, the nice thing about working with someone like us is that we are outside objective thinkers in this process, yes. Right? So we can look in objectively, and we are not emotionally attached to the process, but we can kind of see what's happening and help people through that. But yeah. I love working with owners. Awesome. Who fits there and why is very different from who fits in more of a corporate model. So
for sure. Smaller organizations, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you look forward with everything that's gone on, what does the future of recruiting look like? What do you see happening?
The horizon's interesting, right?
Yeah.
And I think the good thing is this last year's allowed a lot of us to kind of take a step back, pause, reflect, and think about the future, right? Where sometimes we get just so bogged down in our business and the day-to-day that we don't take that planning time or that strategic time to think about it. Interesting. Okay. So here, you were talking statistics earlier when we first got started. By 2025, 75% of our workforce is going to be made up of millennials.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So that's that is something that business needs to think about. And, I always find it interesting that we get stuck in hiring for what we need right now, but 2025 is right around the corner.
That's right.
So if we're not thinking about who we're hiring today based on what 2025 is going to look like in our organizations, we're missing a huge opportunity. And I think we're setting ourselves up. And millennials look for things that are very different than what maybe you and I would have looked for, or a lot of even my customer base, right?
Sure.
The most important things for that group of that workforce is going to be this virtual work from home. Okay, that is something that they really think is extremely important. And the other thing that they are looking for is technology. These people grew up with technology. They don't want our old archaic systems. Okay, right. they want.
Yeah, exactly. No more pen and paper.
As I hold up my files, right?
Guilty.
Again, forward thinking on what that workforce is going to look like is going to be really important in what we do today to set ourselves up for success in the future. So,
and who would have thought that in a few years they will be 75% of the workforce.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of owners that are like, millennials, rah, rah, rah. They're going to have to think about that. What does that really look like? Because really, the truth is, millennials are not unlike any other population. There are really hard workers and great people, and there are going to be the people that aren't so much. Same as my generation, same as your generation. It is what it is. So, yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you, it is, we had a conversation a little earlier, but, having a diverse workforce, I mean, how else can you learn and grow and really identify what's important in life? If you surround yourself by people that are like you all the time, you really aren't growing at all. I love having millennials on my team. I absolutely love it. I think that they are the greatest gift that I could have received.
That's fabulous.
As far as,
Good. Excellent words to share. Everybody listening, millennials are amazing.
They are amazing. They are amazing.
All right, let's see. What are some of the greatest challenges that business owners face today in finding talent?
I think we touched on it, right? They're not thinking long-term, right? But the biggest issue in finding talent today, we've kind of gotten complacent in this mindset of how you recruit. And so people think that you can write a little posting and put it out on a job board, and then you sit back and you wait for the right person to find you. Okay.
Absolutely. That's what happens.
That doesn't work. It will not work in this market today, and it probably won't work in the future. Recruiting is not a passive activity. It's just not. Finding talent, looking for talent is you really need to be proactive about this. And you have to go out and look where the people are and cast a wide net in order to be able to, especially small, mid-sized organizations that don't have a defined brand, that people don't know who you are. So again, it is a lot of work up front. I think the other issue in finding talent today is we haven't defined our cultures internally. So it's very hard to hire if you don't know who you are, if your core values are not intact and you haven't decided, how are you making hiring decisions to bring the right people into your organization? So I think that, owners really need to think about being, or, leaders need to be thinking about being proactive, making sure that they're fishing in all the right ponds, and they have to be thinking long-term here.
Absolutely. So it's like fishing in the right ponds. And like you said, with your culture, that's also kind of bait, if you will, because
It is.
people will be attracted to the right core values and the right culture. But if you don't know what that is, and again, I think especially with millennials, that's important to them. And I won't lump, it's not all the same exact core values that are important to everybody, but they're looking for that.
Right.
And I think you're right. So many organizations, they bring in people very passively, like you said, and then all they do is they ask them questions just based on their resume. So how did you do, tell me about this specific skill set? But there's no questions that they're really asking to get to know the person on that core value level. And then they bring them in and they can't figure out why they've got a square peg in a round hole. So I know you're going to make sure that those things are defined, that you're really finding not just this technical skill set, but those attitudes, aptitudes, all that personality wise, it also fits. And that's critical in a small business. Hands down, no doubt about it. It's got to be done.
Well, and I think you just touched on, a really important point there. People are not their resumes, right? Oh. They just are not. The things that are important to us really don't show up on a resume. Okay. Absolutely. That's just kind of a historical account of who someone, what their technical skills happen to be.
Right.
But if in the hiring process, you haven't first considered how well someone fits in your organization and their attitude, it really doesn't matter what their skill sets are.
Right.
And how can you define how well someone fits in your organization if you don't know what those core values are? Okay, so again, the whole thing kind of goes together. And I think that that's mostly where people get lost. They don't understand that hiring starts before the hiring starts. Mm-hmm. Hiring starts way over here, right? Defining our cultures, who we are, so that we can then go out and fish, find, look for the right people. Mm-hmm. And then we've got the next step of the process, right? Which is which we'll probably talk about.
Yeah.
How do you bring them in?
How do you bring them in? Right.
Right. And retain them. So it all, our employees are our greatest assets. We say that all the time.
Yep.
It just rolls off people's tongue. But I sometimes wonder if they really think through what that really means.
Right.
And the investment that it takes. But if you make the investment, the rewards are huge.
That's absolutely right.
Because if you hire someone and you're paying them X or you're offering X, and what you're not doing everything in your power to help successfully ensure that that person has everything that they need to do the work and be engaged in your organization, then you lose from day one.
Exactly. And it's
costing you money.
And it costs probably, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, and your time and all of that. Yeah, core values and culture are one of the first things I work on with new clients. When they don't have that defined, because it rolls through not only in recruiting, but in everything they do. So I think that's absolutely critical.
Yeah, the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics says that the cost of turnover is anywhere from 100 to 200% above your salary cost. So, wow. That's just kind of their, so again, those are good, for people who need an absolute dollar figure.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, figure that out. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is different from pre-COVID recruiting to today's recruiting market? What does that look like? Because it's got to look so different.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that business needs to understand right now is that, here's the good news is this. COVID has opened up for those organizations who are forward thinking, who understand that our world has now become this hybrid of work, virtual work, remote work, and that's going to continue because this, again, the stats on that are pretty high. How many people really want to continue in this type of an arrangement? So what that does is that opens up the whole world for you to recruit from, right?
Sure.
You figured out how to do this. Okay. I've got a great customer. We redefined a role for them. And I mean, originally that had to be an in-office position.
Right.
If we would have recruited for this a year ago, absolutely. They've figured this out. Yeah. And so we've now hired the best person who lives quite a distance, okay?
Yeah.
But it works because we've got this fabulous addition to their team, and it's a virtual role now.
Right. Absolutely.
So that is the good news for those companies that, again, thinking forward. The top news right now, we have you said there's 8 million openings out there, right? We have lost 2.3 million women in the workforce because of COVID.
It's heartbreaking.
It's so heartbreaking. Trying to be teacher, worker, all of these things has really shrunk our workforce.
Sure.
So until we are able to, until our kids can go back to school
sure.
full time, and that moms are sure that they can, set that part of their responsibilities down, we are going to have this shortage in our workforce. And I have definitely seen that in our customers who are trying to hire and they need people to come into the office.
Right. Yeah.
Made a huge, it has decreased the candidate base tremendously for those people.
I'm sure it's completely different, like you said, and it is heartbreaking to see that setback. But again, those people who can figure out how, if they can make the part of the job virtual, at least they have a better chance of recruiting women who are home with small children. But you're right, those people that absolutely need, I mean, some jobs you just have to be there for. And customer service, if you've got to be there to talk to people, you got to be there. So I understand that. Completely different.
So it's a very delicate balance. If you can allow people, if you have figured out a way to allow people to work on their timeline.
Right. Completely different.
In my case, with my company, a lot of my staff, they don't have to be available 8 to 5, right? They can do their work on off hours, and it works for them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And it works for me. So again, a lot depends on what you've been able to figure out in your thinking going forward on how your workload needs to be performed.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. So we talked about, it's tough to recruit. You finally get the right person and then you don't keep them. And so help us understand, what good retention strategies look like, because again, I see a lot of companies unfortunately make these mistakes. They put some effort in the front end and they think that's done, go do your thing, and then are surprised when it doesn't quite last. So tell me about what your thoughts are.
I find that interesting too, Dawn, right? I find that so interesting that we still think like that. And again, we have an educated workforce today, right? We're educated people. We go to our doctors and we tell them what we want. We are educated employees in the workforce.
Right.
We are interviewing, or people interview us as much as we are interviewing them. So it starts here in this interview process. And what I've found and what we've found is that from day one, when people come into your organization, they're assessing everything that you said was going to happen. and they're holding you accountable as much as you think you're holding them accountable, right?
Absolutely.
So that's day one. And if we don't, as organizations, and really the responsibility is ours. It is our responsibility to bring people on and give them and set them up for success. Yeah. We want to give people all the tools they need so that they can thrive in the work that they're going to be doing for our organization. They don't expect us to be perfect, but they expect us to, again, be who we say we are, acknowledge our faults, and then give them the tools and set them up to be successful in that process. So when we're talking about that, we're talking about a 30, a 60, a good 90-day onboarding process. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're, the customer service representative coming in, or you're the new CFO that we just hired, or COO.
Yeah.
Onboarding is onboarding. It takes me a while to acclimate into your culture, to figure things out, to learn who you are, to help assimilate and bring my skills to the table, right? I mean, there's a lot that goes on. No one walks into an organization day one and starts producing. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. It takes a good 6 months to wrap your mind around everything. So again, the better that onboarding process, and we liken it to riding a bike, okay? So the first 30 days, when you teach your kids how to ride their bike, you're holding on to the back of the bike, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're keeping them from falling. Well, then the next 30 days, you're letting go, but you're running alongside them, right?
Right. Yep.
And then you're kind of standing in the front yard watching them go up and down the block.
But you're cheering them too.
But you're cheering.
Yeah, motivating them.
It's a silly analogy, but
it's perfect.
But it's perfect, right? I mean, it works in business as much as it works there. And so I think that if business can wrap their mind around that and really come up with, set those process in play, they will be so much happier. And so will the people that are working for them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
60% of the people, 60% are making their exit strategy day one. Day one. That's this millennials, 60% are making an exit strategy day one based on what they may not be gone in the first 90 days.
Right.
Okay,
right.
But they may be gone in 6 months. They may be gone in 1 year. But look at the dynamics of that. What happens in your organization? How much of them are you not getting day one when they walk in the door if they're already thinking about exiting?
Yeah.
You're not getting all of that.
Wow. They're already thinking sort of about the next move in their career the day they start with you. It's not like when, the baby boomers and their parents, they wanted a job for life. They got there and they thought, hallelujah, I'm here. No matter what employers did to them, they stayed because that's just the way it was. Today, what you're saying, exactly the opposite. They are empowered. They're educated. They want to have a career. Yep. All that. I mean, it's not that there's no loyalty. There certainly is loyalty.
Oh, yeah.
With them if you earn it, but you have to earn it. It's not given to you from day one. I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, it is. And it's a respect. It's a respect.
Yes.
It really is a mutual respect. I will come in and I will give you all of myself. Just, help me get where I'm going.
Yes.
And that's really what it boils down to. Again,
absolutely.
Be who you say you are. You don't have to be perfect, right? I mean,
right.
You know what? We're all a work in progress.
Right.
And,
yeah.
And I think just
absolutely.
But again, we want to set our companies up and set people up for success, because then that does mean we can finally go, okay, I got the right people and I've empowered them. I've given them what they need to be successful long term.
Yeah. So Lesley, you mean day one doesn't say, take this big, thick manual and go in the corner and read it? Maybe that's not the right approach.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I started so many jobs that that's what they made me do. And the manual was, who's going to memorize all that stuff, right? So yeah, it was funny.
I mean, it's funny. It is. It's like, okay, day one should be almost like, okay, you're hosting a party, right?
Right.
You've prepared for the person to actually be there, right? I mean, you don't invite people over to your house and then you forgot to, okay, you forgot to clean, you forgot to, order
there's snacks in the cabinet,
help yourself.
I'm not going to that party anymore. Yeah, for sure.
Again, it's really, you want people to feel welcome. You want them to feel like you were anticipating and you're excited and you are glad that they are there.
Absolutely. If everybody doesn't take away one other thing other than the bike analogy and improving their onboarding, that's a big, huge takeaway right there. So thank you for that. That was awesome.
That's great.
All right, let's see.
Yeah.
Well, so again, we may have covered these, but what are some of the biggest mistakes that companies make in recruiting and hiring? Is there any that we may have maybe left out? We've talked about a couple of them, but what are some of the big ones maybe?
I think we talked about the most important, but I think what I notice in small, mid-sized businesses, they piecemeal the process together. Okay, so if we go back to the whole thought that recruiting, first off, recruiting is a full-time job. It's not something you can passively do sometimes when it fits into your schedule.
Right.
And what I've noticed with, my customer base, generally 20 to 70 employees, no real HR, or HR is so completely overwhelmed, the last thing they have time to do is recruit.
Right.
Again, it's a full-time job out there. You can't kind of sort of do this.
Right.
And so companies give this responsibility to people who already have a full-time job in their organization, and they're supposed to fit that in. Well, it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
You have to be engaged in the recruiting process as much as you have to be engaged in the onboarding process all the way through. Right. So again, if you don't have 6 months of, because average search today, 12 to 15 weeks, depending on who you're looking for. That's an engagement process. I mean, you might get lucky if you've got your brand built, but again, that's a long time to be engaged. So, piecemealing it together, probably not a good idea.
Right. That makes so much sense.
And again, back to the hiring for fit, attitude, and then skills. I will say that is something about recruiting that will never change. That won't ever change. It hasn't changed. It doesn't matter what the market is. Again, if you don't get the first two right, it really doesn't matter what someone's skill sets are, because you've just set yourself up for failure. Absolutely. And your team up for failure, because now you've got a morale issue, or you've got other issues that you have to contend with, and usually those are the calls I get from most CEOs. That's what's keeping them up at night. Either they can't find the people, or the people that they have are creating so much turmoil in their organization. They spend more time thinking about that. And than they do
all the other strategies.
Productive.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and also, if one cancerous person, boy, it just creates such, it's awful. And I will also say this, Lesley, I coach a lot of owners who are not great at confrontation in their organizations.
Sure.
They're timid about holding people accountable. They're timid. They don't like to fire people. It's uncomfortable. That's not really the culture that they like. For those people, I would say, if you want to do less of that and take that out of the equation, do the work on the front end, get the right people in the door, and you will have to do that far less. Because again, most small businesses are like, this is my family. I want to have this really warm, comfortable atmosphere in many, many cases. And those are the folks, they struggle with letting those, even though they see that person wreaking all kinds of havoc, it takes them a very long time to get rid of them. And that, again, in the scheme of things with customers, with trying to grow your business, that is a bad case scenario. So spend your time in the front end, and you'll have to do way less of that on the back end, is what I see as makes sense.
Yeah.
I really want to ask you this question, because I think this is so critical. Again, in light of the conversations that we're having today. And that's all about how important is compensation. Clearly, a lot of conversations going on today about the potential for a $15 an hour minimum wage. There's a lot of politics around that. I know a lot of people are saying, I can't hire anybody because of the stimulus checks that are out there. There is so much talk about what to pay people today. And I know it's got to be important, but I know there are other elements. So help me, share with us your thoughts on that.
So I'm gonna back into the conversation, okay? Because there's a lot of.
We could talk for 2 hours just on that.
Yeah, just on that subject alone. But I'm gonna start with culture, okay? So culture trumps everything, right? Culture trumps everything. Compensation is always important in the regards that we pay people fairly for the work that they're doing and we treat them well. I've seen more people leave organizations based on culture than I have on pay, okay? And once you get a reputation for not paying well and not having a good work environment, you're sunk, okay? I've seen plenty of organizations. Now I do think that we should have a fair wage, okay? Right. I think that everybody should be able to afford to live, pay their rent, have a vehicle, have food on their table and have health care. I think that's just the right human thing to do. Okay. So all else aside, that's just, those things are really important. But again, when you get into, and I do a lot of compensation comparison, analysis, reviews, we're constantly, looking at, where companies are at and where the equity is with the people that they have or where they should be and what it's going to take to attract and retain. Sure. But it is total comp. It's not necessarily the base. So again, if we're thinking millennials and where we're headed, what's most important? Okay, maybe my PTO, my virtual, my time off policies are going to weigh as heavily as what you're compensating me at, right? Where I get to work. So again, it's all in compensation, Dawn. So I don't get hung up on it unless I feel like, again, you're paying people because you already know that you have, your wage goes up, your comp goes up if you don't offer a good work culture environment. You will pay more. Yes. To keep people long term. Yeah. But again, it's not a guarantee. Compensation is not a guarantee. All right. So
we're just going to throw money at it, but that does not mean the person's going to stay or that they're going to be attracted to you.
Or that if you're paying at that level, that you're even getting that level of commitment and engagement.
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, it all comes back to, and I know it's so hard for leaders, CEOs, right? Executives to go, okay, that's not why I got in business. I didn't get in business for all this. But that's why there are people out there that can help handle and deal with those types of things in your organizations. And so we outsource what we don't do well, right?
Sure.
We hire people not like ourselves because that's not the skill that we have or the gift that we have that we bring to the table. So it's all encompassing, right? As we scale our organizations, we want to bring people in that can tackle. It's, why people hire you, Dawn. It's why people hire companies like Strategic Recruiting or myself. It's why people hire CPAs. I mean, I was on a, right. You might be able to do your own taxes, but is it really, is that really where you want to spend your time?
Yeah. Companies cannot scale unless the owner does stop being the bottleneck. Yeah. If they can't stop being the bottleneck, they will not scale. I mean,
Correct.
I've been doing this for 15 years and I've watched it happen. And it's hard for owners to let go. But again, I would encourage all them, take away the bike thing, take away the culture thing, but also take away that you are not expected to do it all, to know it all. You can't be good at it all. And it is a small price to pay if you really want to scale. If you looked at it dollars and cents wise, it makes total sense to bring in those experts because again, you will not scale if you don't. Bottom line.
And what is your time worth, right? What is your time worth there? I mean, there's a real value proposition in all of that.
Absolutely.
But again, I really think that, you know, we want all businesses to succeed, right? We
absolutely.
We want people in our organizations that are happy to be there. We want to create that. We want people doing the work that they are by design designed to do, because then they're fulfilled and they're happy, right? I mean, there's a real gauge there that we could all win if we pay attention to some of these things. So,
absolutely.
You know, this is one of my favorite. You know, I've been doing it for a long time, right? So, you know, 30 years. I mean, that's a long time to be in this profession.
And you're still clearly passionate about it, which I love.
And I can still sit out here and look in and go, gosh, if we could just do this, or if we could just do that, your life would be so much better. It's, you know, companies that I sit and I watch and it's 2 years have gone by and they're still doing the same thing with the same, you know, cancerous, infectious, you know, same person that's driving people out of the organization, but they're still keeping them. And you know, or instead of hiring people based on attitude and fit that we could train, if we did it 2 years ago, by now we'd have some real superstars in our company, but we're just so adamant that we have to have, you know, again, that investment up front should lead to long-term success. Absolutely. So again, strategy, forward thinking, the horizon is changing.
And
I would like for these business owners to be successful.
Absolutely. So another hot topic today is the whole diversity and inclusion. There are lots of organizations that are really making an effort, and I do applaud them, to try to diversify. And it's for all the right reasons. You know, as you and I know, that teams that are diverse, those companies perform better financially. You know, they can be more forward thinking. They come with different, I mean, our world is made up of all these different cultures and attitudes. And if our organizations don't reflect that, it is more difficult to service our customers, because they're going to start to look, you know, they're looking more and more like the world and like this rainbow. And we can't have all the ideas just by ourselves. There's just too much information out there. An owner can't know everything. So it's important to bring on these people with different ideas. But again, that's scary. But there are those organizations that are like, yes, I'm finally ready. I want to do this. I want to get out there and try. But it's not that easy. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on, you know, diversity and inclusion, or DEI, as a lot of people shorten it to?
Well, you know, I think overall I have some wonderful friends that are experts in the space, and I would always defer to them for their knowledge and expertise. I would say this is not something you just give lip service to. You don't hire a token diverse candidate and assign them this responsibility. Again, that's just, you know, your heart has to be in this. You really have to be open-minded for the change. I can't imagine being in an organization that isn't open to, again, hiring people that are different than them. How else do you grow and learn and think about life? So we really have to get away from some of our systemic thoughts that we've had for so long. We've got to rethink the way that we do absolutely everything. And I think that how we employ people, who we employ, those should all be top of mind as we're making plans for the future and our future workforce, and how to become inclusive.
Right. So much of it, I think, is somewhat subconscious too. I know of a firm that they would, I mean, and this again is proven if you read any articles, but they were recruiting, and you had to turn in plans for them to, architectural drawings for them to review. And they have started blocking the name of the person on the plans, because that's sort of one of their first phases. They just want to see portfolios and see what the person has done, because they recognized there was a significant bias in the team. I mean, let's face it, the world of engineering and architecture is mostly white men. And some of them carried unconscious biases that they didn't even realize that they had. So they might get a drawing that a woman has done, or an odd name that they know is some sort of, not John Smith, it's an unusual name. So they're going to assume that it is a person of a color, or they're going to assume, again, or a woman's name, and they look at those drawings differently. And they've proven this, again, when none of us are trying maybe to do those things, but it's just a subconscious bias. So I don't know if there's any tricks that people can put, first of all, maybe in how they recruit, how they screen people, maybe, to make sure that there is some equity in this, and that they don't bring those biases with them. Maybe they have to encourage more people on the team to get involved. So it isn't one person just going, nope, 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 yes, whatever. Do you have any thoughts on that? I don't want to back you into a corner here, but.
No, you're not at all. I think, again, privilege is something that needs to be thought about, and we need to understand it, and we have to go, we can't do this unconscious thing anymore. Right. We've got to be able to have the conscious conversations about what's real and what's happening. And I can think of several examples this week where this conversation has come up, where assessments were done and this person was hired because of where they went to school, who they knew. They failed the assessment, and this person not hired. Okay, so these were backward studies done, not in real time today. Understood. But the comparisons brought forward, and you go, are you kidding? This is, and all you can do is go, this is what privilege looks like. Right. This is what it looks like. Be conscious of it. Again, I don't think anymore we're allowed to get away with living unconsciously. Right. No, I agree. If this hasn't shown us anything, it should have shown us that we really need to be consciously aware of who we are, what role do we play, what role do we want our organizations to play, and always, 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 it starts at the top of an organization. Definitely. It always starts with the leader. So whoever you are and whoever you want to be, that is what will play itself out within your organization. Absolutely. And that's just the truth of the situation. I can't fix that. I can't change it. You can't hire here and expect to change here. Right. And think that that's it. I slapped a Band-Aid on that problem. All done now. Now I've got my diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay, now I've got life doesn't work like that. And I don't care what it is that you're trying to change. The leader of that organization has to be the one that really steps into that role of change. And they've got to really embrace that. You talked about the millennials in 2025. That's another thing that they're attracted to. They want to work within a diverse environment. And if it's not there, they're going to be less attracted to your organization, unless they see, maybe today you're not, but at least if you're working. I know a lot of people I'm talking with, I'm coaching, they're putting plans in place and practices. This isn't going to switch overnight, right? But they're consciously really trying to pay attention to that. And I think, again, maybe then a millennial will say, okay, I understand, at least they're trying to do these things, at least today. You're not going to get away with that 5 years from now, probably, because you've done the work. But 3 years from now, you're not going to get away with it. But maybe today you'll get away with it. But I think, if you want to, again, attract that, and if 70% of the workers are out there, you better be
attracting the millennials, or you're going to have a really pretty shrinking workforce and you're going to be in trouble.
And
So,
they want to make a difference in the world.
sure.
They want the work that they're doing, or they want to be associated with an organization that is having an impact, a positive impact in the world.
Mhm.
They are not going to spend their money in places. They are not going to support organizations
Mhm.
that aren't thinking collectively like this. So again, it's a real the leaders of the world. It is time for us to arise. It is time for us to step forward. It's time for us to live consciously, and it's time for us to think about all these things if we really want to continue to grow, scale our businesses, and I think, you know, there's a lot of us out there that can help support this effort. We're here to help. So
Absolutely.
we're here to help. We are here to serve. We are here to serve these organizations and help them through this process. So
Absolutely. I love it. Oh
love
gosh.
it.
Well, thank you, Lesley. And thank you so much for spending your time today. Wow. Great information. I hope everybody really pays close attention, and not only pays close attention, but takes an action. That's what I'm hoping, that they will all take some sort of action from this
Yeah.
and move forward, because that's
Yeah.
what you and I are both about.
Yeah.
Don't just talk about it, take some action, move forward. I will be giving you Lesley's contact information if you want to reach out directly to her. That I know she would welcome that conversation. Or if you want to reach out to me and have any questions about Lesley, I'd be happy to fill you in before you reach out to her. But thanks again so much for all the information and for spending time today. I really appreciate it.
It's been a real pleasure and an honor. Thanks so much for the invitation, Dawn.
My pleasure. All right. Thanks.
Take care. Bye.